Just because I related it to you just because my teacher used to say the same things that you used to say.
So then you knew it already.
So I knew it already.
Perfect. That's
so
awesome.
Right now, but in IISc, I want to say that in IISc that does not work. I've given the review also.
Oh, is it?
We are all day set with class, this, that, this. At night we get 2 hours or 3 hours time, then we see that अब देखते हैं डायरी में लगाते हैं सबको तो लगता है कि दिन भर तो हो चुका है अब क्या
हो गया.
It's like that. That's frustrating. So I think that your thing does not.
The life of a student is very different.
It does not relate that because when I was not in IISc, at that time it was very practical. This is that you makes you mechanical.
Yes.
So that part also I handled by reading the book at 5 a.m.
You shouldn't be restless. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I had to navigate my way through, and I found that there were a few things that really helped me, which is what I want to share with you. Before I do that, I will quickly walk you through my life. I, very early on in my life, as a school student, I think in class 7th or 8th, knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was super clear what I wanted to do. It was a 3-step plan. Step 1 was to go to the US for a PhD program. Step 2, as a PhD student, specialize in space/astronomy/astrophysics, become as the place to be. And step 3, as a space scientist working at NASA, I wanted to finally find myself on Mars. No, but this is true. This is before Elon Musk had come into the picture. This is before Shah Rukh Khan from the movie Swades had come back from the US and so on. So this was not polluted by any Bollywood pop culture, any entrepreneurial pop culture. True middle class Indian ambition to go to the US for a fine education and get everything that I did. And I was so focused on that, intently, sharply, that nothing could deter me from these 3 science in class 11th and 12th. I was really good with the sciences. Physics was something that I absolutely killed. Maths was something that I totally killed at. So it was just a natural thing. And then I joined Delhi University, Hindu College, as a student in its Bachelor's of Physics program. And I don't think anyone here is from Delhi University or has any. Oh, wow. So the few of you who are from Delhi University, nothing happened at Delhi University. So nothing really happened for me. Academically, nothing happened on those 3 years. The only thing that I got out of college was my wife. And I loved her. I so loved her. You may know what I'm talking about. I'm from Hindu, my wife is from Miranda. I think I'm the only guy. I have my name somewhere in Miranda as a Hall of Fame. हिंदू के लड़के ने हमारी एक स्टूडेंट को अपना लाइफ पार्टनर बनाने की जुर्रत करी. But goal was super clear, go to the US for a PhD, so all of these were like mere aberrations in the way. So I started applying to the US universities. Princeton was my number 1 choice. That's where every physicist would want to believe. Princeton didn't think that I was their number 1 choice, so they were like, screw you, not happening. I applied to almost 8 universities and I only got through 1, Michigan State University, which I'm glad because it was really good with nuclear physics. It had a cyclotron, which is fancy for a university to have. It was ranked number 2 after MIT in the US for nuclear physics program, so I was glad. I got through the PhD program for the astrophysics degree at Michigan State University on 100% scholarship, which was frankly the only way that I could have afforded that education. Come from a very, very middle class background, hand-to-mouth existence. So the only way that I could have gone to the US was through a scholarship, and I'm glad I got that. And the next thing I know, as a student trained in the Indian education system, I find myself in the US. And the best thing about the Indian education system is that it trains us wonderfully well to know when to study, when not to study, how much to study, how much not to study, what not to study, to know exactly what to say in that 3-hour exam, to know exactly how much you will score, to know exactly where you will rank in that class. And I was just deploying 18 years of that education to the hilt. I was killing it. I was top of my class. My professors loved me. My students hated me. Everything that I imagined would be happening to me was happening exactly the way that I'd imagined. Except there was something that was evidently missing. And we all know when something is missing, we just don't admit it. because it's really, really hard to admit it, especially when you're doing something that you thought you should be doing. But if I really was truthful to myself and asked myself, is this what you feel happy doing? My answer was not a very strong yes. And I began to have these conversations with myself. What's wrong? What could possibly be going wrong? And I realized that physics was something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. I was doing something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. And for the first time in my life, it struck me that what you're good at and what makes you happy could be two entirely different things. And that was a shocking revelation for me. Because all my life, my world had told me that if you're good at something, you automatically become happy doing it. Like there's nothing that you have to do. But that wasn't the case for me. And now I had a choice to make. Do I continue what I was doing? And because I was good at it, I will get everything that society calls a success. Bangla, Gadi, Shan, Shaukat, like all of those things will come to me because I'm good at this shit. But I may not be happy. Or two, go and pursue whatever is it that happiness meant. And I didn't have any idea what that would mean. But I'm glad that I decided to choose that. And I decided to drop out of my PhD and come back to India. And you can imagine how that conversation went with my parents. Because they're like, "Tumhara dimag kharab ho chuka hai. Tumne 8 saal se hamara dimag kharab kar diya hai. NASA, US, space, astronomy, blah, blah, blah. And now you're giving us this random theory. Oh, I'm good with this, but I'm not happy. Whatever that means." So they didn't get it. And I can understand why they didn't get it. And after the series of a lot of conversations, they were like, "It seems you want to come back to India, which is fine. But you don't have to drop out of your PhD to come back to India. So why don't you finish your PhD and then come back? And something will happen." And I was like, where have I heard this before? And then I remembered in class 10th they told me, "इस साल पढ़ लो, फिर जिंदगी में पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होगी." And then in class 12th they told me, "इस साल अच्छे से कॉलेज घुस जाओ, and your entire life will be sorted out." And they're basically giving me the same thing again. Why don't you just finish something? Something miraculous will happen that will fix your life. And that to me felt hope as a strategy, and I didn't want to have hope as my strategy. So I did not listen to my parents, and I came back to India. No plan, no goal. And mind you, this is 2004 I'm talking about. Today when I enter a school or a college full of young minds and I tell them that I dropped out of PhD, they're like, "Oh my God! Everyone we know who's done something successful in life has dropped out of something. So you must be really cool too." But back in 2004, dropping out of education when you were in the US, 100% scholarship, top of your class, blah, 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 just meant कि कुछ तो खराब हो गया है जो वो बताना नहीं चाहते. And it was not the done thing. And I was absolutely confused. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life, should be doing in life, had to do in life. And my friends were like, "Look, you're confused. So why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA." Any MBAs here? कोई बात नहीं. Just like, बाकी लोग हाथ ही नहीं उठा रहे, like हमें नहीं. We don't want to be branded as those confused people. Most people go for an MBA because they don't know what to do in life. I was certainly one of them. But I didn't know whether MBA would be the right thing for me because I'd seen my friends go for an MBA, 2 years of that. Blood, money, sweat, and all of those things. And as luck would have it, I come across this rather young school. It's a 5-year-old program. It's an insanely expensive program. So I'll have to take a mega educational loan for the first time in my life to pay for that. But it was a 1-year MBA program, which was great because that was a new thing in India. And the best thing about it was a bunch of work experience people that would be part of my class. And that I loved. So I decided to apply to this young school called the Indian School of Business. And I thankfully got through. And that 1 year just fundamentally changed my life. It changed everything about my life. And I think the reason was because I went to ISB looking for a job and a career and a brand and money and title and all of those things. But I genuinely went to ISB looking for myself. Who am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What are the things that I should or should not be doing in life? And I needed answers to those questions, and I think I found those answers to those questions. I took up a consulting job after ISB, which was a fascinating experience. Suddenly, as a 26-year-old, I was sitting in the boardrooms of really large companies. in front of people whose faces I had seen on the covers of newspapers and magazines, telling them on how they should be running their business. This is the Excel sheet that I have made. This is my understanding of their business. 2 weeks back. And I was like, how does this make sense? This is not an equal relationship. I'm 26 years of age. You have worked in this company for longer than I've lived on this planet. Why aren't you throwing me out? But they weren't throwing me out, and if they weren't throwing me out, I was getting to learn so much that I wasn't complaining one bit. And one fine evening, it's been, I think, about a year and a half into consulting, really enjoying it. I'm catching up with a friend of mine from ISB. He's the same batch as me. And he's like, hey, I've started this new website and I wanted to talk to you about it. I said, sure, what's it called? He said, it's called secondshadi.com. And I was like, is it what I think it is? He's like, man, it's a matrimonial website for remarriages. There's so many people who get married in India, so there are bound to be people who get divorced and widowed, and this is a platform for them to get married again. It's like, that is such an incredible idea, bro. How did you think about that? It's like, no, my dad thought about this. So my first reaction was, I hope uncle and auntie are having a happy marriage. But most importantly, is there a way that I can help? I would love to. And he's like, yeah, I'm a coder, I'm an engineer, I will build this thing out, but I think you and I can make a great team, so do you want to do this together? And I was like, yeah, I'm learning so much in consulting. I'm making money for the first time in my life. I have this wonderful job. I think it will be foolish to give all of that away and join you, but I don't want to say no to this as well. So if you're okay, I would love to help you with whatever time is left out of my day job. And he was very gracious about it, like, sure, let's make that happen. So for the next 1.5 years, I had a day job as a consultant. And during nighttime, I was Batman trying to get people married again. And that worked out really well. Second Shadi became a fairly decent hit and success. And it very quickly got to a size and scale where it now warranted my full time. So I then decided to quit my consulting job, take a 80% pay cut, down to the bare minimum amount that I needed to survive, and join secondshadi.com. And you can imagine how that conversation went with my parents. They're like, "Tumhara sach mein dimag kharab ho chuka hai. Why do you every 4 or 5 years forget the pain on yourself? Why do you keep inflicting it on us? तुम्हारी खुद की पहले शादी नहीं हुई है. तुम्हें कोई आइडिया नहीं है कि शादी क्या होती है. तुम लोगों की दूसरी शादियां करवाने जा रहे हो. And that too, after leaving all of this, that consulting gives you the money, the glamour, the respect, the social status, and all that. How does this make sense? And I was like, it makes sense to me because I think I can always go back to the world that I'm quitting, but I don't know that the world that I'm going for will be ever available again or not. And I don't want to regret that. So I'm glad I again didn't listen to my parents. I'm making them sound like they're the worst decision makers on earth. They're not. They're lovely people, but they do tend to make very emotional decisions. Not that I don't. I'm just lucky that it worked out for me. And I joined secondshadi.com. We had a ball of a time. We came up with several other websites. One of them was Gaadi.com. It very quickly became one of India's largest car classifieds website. We got an opportunity to sell that to a large South African internet company, make a little bit of money. There were 3 of us as founders. We went our ways. And I was looking for the next thing to do, and I come across this rather young company called Groupon. And Groupon had just started in the US in 2008. It was growing like wildfire all across the world, and they were looking for people to start the country offices. I got in touch with them, they liked me, I liked them, and the next thing I know, I started the Groupon India business for Groupon in 2011. Did that for 4 years, and then it was time for the 4 to 5 year itch in my life. वक्त आ चुका था मुझे कुछ करने का फिर से. And I realized that Groupon had its own problems to take care of in US and Europe, which were meaningfully large. So the attention that they could give to India was limited, and understandably so. While I was living the India opportunity day in and day out. And I felt that there was so much more that we could do in this market. So I went to Groupon headquarters, and I made a very audacious ask. I said, I want to buy the Groupon India business from you and make it independent. And they're like, sorry? आज की लौंडे में बताएंगे हमें क्या करना चाहिए? Who are you? What are you talking about? You're a 100% subsidiary of a publicly listed company listed in the US. This thing has never happened before. And I was like, well, that's not the reason why it shouldn't happen or can't happen. Here's the reason why I think it should happen. And it took about 9 months of convincing, but we were able to convince Groupon to do that. And in 2015, we bought the majority shareholding of Groupon from Groupon's India business and made that into an independent entity that became Nearbuy.com. Still continues to run. 2017, we were invested in by Paytm, so we became a Paytm company. In 2019, after it took, frankly, everything out of us, all possible highs, all possible lows, we became profitable for the first time on a fairly large scale. We were doing almost 600 crores of business a year. I decided that I'd spent enough time in this industry working with Groupon and Nearbuy. I had a wonderful team that I could trust more than I trusted myself to lead it forward. So I decided to then step down as the CEO of Nearbuy, take a 3-month break, figuring out what I wanted to do. And I'm on the 22nd month of that 3-month break, trying to figure out what I want to do. I think I'm getting closer, but it's nearly not there. And the reason why I share all of this, particularly for all of you as students, is because it has a very important lesson that I learned, and I'm glad that I learned it the hard way, but it's a lesson that stayed with me. We're always told that to win in life, you have to have a plan. You can't win in life if you don't have a plan. Everyone's telling you that. Gotta have a plan, gotta have a plan. And I'm sure all of you have a plan. I had a plan. I had a plan for myself, which was as good as a plan can get. I had a kick-ass plan. I had a plan that was very well laid out. I had a plan that I knew I could achieve. I had a plan that I was working towards. I had a plan that I was commendably performing on. Everything that you would call as a good plan was part of my plan. And yet, life punched me hard in my face, laughed at me, mocked me, saying, "Oh, you think you have a plan? Well, I want to make another plan for you and see how you respond to that plan." So when I came back from the US, dropping out of my PhD, everyone told me, plan A didn't work, so plan B. Plan B didn't work, plan C. Plan C didn't work, plan D. That's what we are always told. Gotta have a plan, gotta have a plan. But I did not have a basis for another plan. I did not know what the other plan could be. I was completely lost. The only thing that mattered to me in my life was the plan that I had just broken off from. So I didn't want to just get into a rebound relationship with another plan because we broke up with my first love. That was the worst thing that I could do. So I asked myself a rather crazy question. Is it possible to live life without a plan? Is it possible at all to live life without a plan, without goals, without targets? And if yes, as crazy as it sounded, what would that life look like? And I want to leave you with 3 things that have worked for me wonderfully so, that have allowed me to live life without a goal or a target. And I kid you not when I say that for the last 17 years, since I came back from the US, I have been someone who has no goal, no target. Like if you ask me, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, which people love to ask, I don't have an answer. I never did. But I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. And here are the things that I learned that I want to leave you all with, because I believe that at this age, if you could pick up even the smallest iota of what these 3 things have taught me, it could perhaps mean a lot for you. Number 1, go back to the day that you joined college, whether it was IISc, whether it's any place else, and you were suddenly surrounded by people from all walks of life, from across the country, perhaps the world, people who looked differently, people who spoke differently, people who dressed differently, people who had very different life experiences, very different worldviews about the same thing. And what did you end up doing? You ended up looking for people who are exactly like you. That's what we love doing. It's quite possible you're sitting next to people who are like you, because those are your closest friends. They think and operate like you. They have the same kind of experiences that you have. They come from the same cities, blah, blah, blah. I saw that happening at ISB. The first week I reached, and everywhere there were just groups. Engineers with engineers, chemical with chemical, mechanical with mechanical, Delhi with Delhi, South Bombay with South Bombay, क्योंकि वो कोई Bombay नहीं उनके लिए, dance with dance, music with music, CAs with CAs, lawyers with lawyers. That was a genuine slip. Psychologists with psychologists, blah blah blah. And I was like, boss, किसी ने मेहनत करके ये 350 लोग चुन के एक कैंपस पे आपके लिए डाले हैं. Why would you hang out with the same people that you have hung out with, who think and operate exactly like you? That is such a tragedy. And that will be your biggest fallacy. Irrespective of where you are, and I don't know any one of you personally, I guarantee you already making this mistake. You're spending time with people who are like you, because it's just so wonderful to spend time with people who are like us. They agree to what we say. We have a little bit of chotu-motu, no jokes, but it's never material. It never goes to a fist fight. It never goes to like, "Kabhi hum zindagi mein baat nahi karenge," or like "Jaidaad se bedakh lo," nothing like that, right? It's just like nice, happy, friendly banter. But it doesn't teach you anything new. It's like social media. You open up Instagram, you open up TikTok, you open up LinkedIn, you open up Twitter, you open up anything that you consume. You're only seeing the things that you already believe in. Everything the algorithm is telling you is, hey, do you believe in this? You are right. That is actually true. देखो देखो ये हुआ था, कल ही हुआ था. You are actually right. वो सब लोग झूठ बोल रहे हैं, तुम ही सच बोल रहे हो. And it tricks you into believing that your worldview is the only one that exists. And if your circle is also the same, you're doing injustice to this opportunity you're sitting on. Spend time with people who are nothing like you. Go back to the first day of college. You looked around. And I'm sure there were 2 or 3 people you looked at and you're like, nahi. इनके साथ hang out नहीं होगा. ये तो अलग है. They are the ones you need to spend time with. Because they see the world very differently from you. All engineers, by the way, and I'm not recommending because it's a psychology group out there. All engineers, all science students here, all of you have been trained to look at the world in 0 and 1, bits and bytes, right or wrong. Machine chalti hai ya nahi chalti hai? Yeah, theek hi chal rahi hai. It's nothing like that. It's a fact. But they, and I'm sorry I'm pointing to you, but you're a lovely guinea pig here. Their entire training is the world is a continuum. There is no 0 or 1. There is no black and white. Everything is a shade of gray. Everything is a continuous spectrum. Imagine how differently do they look at the world from how you have been, and imagine how do they look at the world so differently from what you have. And it's such a pity that you wouldn't know the other side. That you wouldn't even know that there is just as important a side as you have come to believe of the world that you have no idea about. Spend time with people who are nothing like you. Number 2, and this is particularly for people who are studying at the IISc, but doesn't necessarily apply only to them. Whenever I go to these finest institutions that this country has, there is, of course, this sense of pride. But then there is also this sense of entitlement. Entitlement that I saw in abundance when I went to ISB, and I'm certain there are pockets which feel it every day, which is standing in front of the mirror and saying, I deserve to be here. I've worked hard in my life. I deserve to be here. No wonder all of these things need to happen. I deserve to get this. I deserve to get that. I deserve to be this. And what it does is, it makes you an animal of complaining. You just start complaining about random shit in life. Because you believe that you deserve to be here. But here's the truth. And it's a harsh truth, but it is the truth. None of us in this room, in this fancy cocoon, in this wonderful campus, which is outside of the bhasar that Bangalore has to offer, none of us deserve to be here. We're just plain lucky. We're lucky we were born in a family that took us under their wings. They gave us food, shelter, and upbringing, values, education, love, because of which we sit on opportunities that we take for granted, and most people outside of this lovely campus will never get to experience even for a second of their lives. They work far harder than most of us, and a lot of them are far smarter than we ever will be. But we trick ourselves into believing that we deserve this shit. And that's when everything stops. You stop growing. You stop existing as an individual who could have grown. Because you believe now the world owes you something. And it's crazy. I want you to reflect on this. Go back to the last 24 hours. And make a mental note of all the things that you complain about. It could be trivial. Zomato, Swiggy, time se nahi aaya, Uber, Ola nahi mil rahi hai, kitni bheed hai, AC itna thanda kyun hai, nahi hai, kursi nahi chal rahi. And I already see people who are looking at, hey, tere baare mein bol rahe. We're always complaining about shit that we don't have any business complaining about. And it sucks you out of the power you have to do something. Because the minute you complain, you actually give the power to somebody else. It seems like somebody else is out there to screw your life and you are the victim, which is not the truth. You are the owner of your life. And until you don't come to believe that, you will always live under the shadow of someone else's control. Which brings me to the last and final point before I have to wind up. Everything around us today is designed for one thing and one thing alone: our comfort. Everything is designed for our comfort. So everything is happening as if that's the only purpose. You need a book? Click. You need food? Click. You need the latest movies? Click. You need the latest clothes? Click. You need love? Swipe right. Anything that you need at the speed of thought available to you when you want it. So it tricks you into believing that the purpose of life is to make life comfortable. When the irony is, if you look at people that you are inspired by, that you would want to be, that you look up to and say, oh my God, I would love to learn from this individual, be that individual, you will see that they consciously on a daily basis pick up the path of maximum resistance, not the easiest path. They are consciously going towards things that they know have a low probability of success, and yet they would pick that up because they know that if they win, it will change their life forever. And they're willing to play those odds. They don't get comfortable. They don't want to get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. And when you combine these three things, spending time with people who are nothing like you, so that it broadens your perspective, gives you a holistic view of what the world has to offer beyond what you already know. You do it in a manner that you never feel entitled, that you never complain, that you never think that you deserve it. Instead, keep working hard towards hopefully getting to a point where you think you deserve it. And you never get comfortable. You have a potent mix. And that potent mix will hold you true for the rest of your life. Because it frankly doesn't matter what your plan is. What matters is, what are your habits? The way you think, the way you approach things, the way you operate is going to define opportunities for you, not necessarily your plan. If someone came to me in 2004 when I had just come back from the US after dropping your PhD, and that person would be like, hey, I know you wouldn't believe it, but because you were a science student, maybe you will. Guess what? Time travel has been invented. I am from the future. I'm from 2022. And I was like, okay, what do you got? I was like, well, you wouldn't believe this, man. It's so cool. In 2022, you will have like 7 million followers on this thing called social media. It hasn't come up yet, but it's cool like shit. And you would have actually written a book called Do Epic Shit, which would go on to become a bestseller, and people will be reading it, raving about it, and blah, blah, blah. You'll be called to all the universities that you wanted to attend as a student but could never make it. But they'll be like, hey, why don't you come and give your keynote addresses? You'll actually be called by the top organizations across the world to address their employees, motivate them, inspire them. Isn't that awesome? And I'll be like, boss, जो भी भूख रहा है छोड़ दे. CT scan करवा ले. There was no way any plan, any goal, any target could have got me to this point. And I'm not the smartest person I know. I'm not the most hardworking person I know. There's nothing that sets me apart from anyone in this room and gives me an undue advantage. I'm just as normal as anyone else would be, and just as special as all of you are. The only thing that I chose is discipline myself towards how I want to live life. And that's worked out for me, and worked out for me immensely. And I would encourage all of you, irrespective of the plan that you have for your life, irrespective of where you are, irrespective of what you want to do, don't marry yourself just to the plan. Marry yourself to the way that you execute the plan. That mindset that will hold you in far greater good than any plan. Because the plan will change. Mark my words, it will change. Whatever plan you have for your life is going to change. because the world is changing so rapidly that you have no idea. And here's a prediction that I'm making on the 2nd of September 2022. All of you here who are below 25 years of age, you're never going to die. You're not going to die naturally. You may die because of unnatural causes, but you're not going to die. You're actually signing up a life for 100, 150 plus years. And everything that we have taught you about how to live life is false, because we don't know how to live a life of 100, 150 years. Everything that we have taught you and you have learned is wrong. You're not going to have just one career. You're not going to have just one marriage. You're not going to have just 2 kids. You're not going to have just one identity. You will actually have multiple lives in this one life. And the only way that you can go through that and navigate through that is by having the right mindset, not by attending a certain school or a curriculum or a design. It's by actually knowing how to become a student whenever you have to, whenever you wish to. And that will be my only hope for all of you.